Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're finally going to fix this bad nut here. And you can see this nut is just in miserable condition. This thing has 30 years of use on it, and it's getting ready just to give up. And so we need to fix this before this machine isn't usable anymore. So now part of what's going on here is the threads in the nut are actually fine, and I can actually show you. If I thread this tap in here real quick, there's very little wiggle. That fits reasonably well. So what that's telling me is that the worst of the wear here is actually on the arbor that holds the wheel. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a custom thread to match the worn thread on the arbor. We'll make a nice tight fresh thread that matches this worn thread. It won't be perfect because this thread isn't, dimensionally correct anymore, but it'll be a heck of a lot better than this. And it'll also be an awful lot less work because this thing here is pretty complicated. It's got an inside drawbar in it. It's got a Morris taper on the back of it where it goes into this spindle. There's a lot more going on here than there is just with the nut. So that's why we're going to make a nut that fits this. Now, the only issue there is I don't have a boring bar small enough to, or a threading tool small enough to thread this hole out. So that's what we're going to start by doing, is we're going to make ourselves an internal threading tool that will fit this. And over here, I've got this is the tool we're going to use. This is what the tool is going to look like from the side when we're done. This is what the tool is going to look like from the top when we're done. Now, of course, none of this is scale, but just to give you an idea. And then this is what it'll look like from the end when we are done. And that is how we will be using it to thread this hole. Here now is we're going to use this cup wheel. And the end of this thing right now is angled. That's how they come, from the factory. So I want at least the top half of this, the first 1/4 inch of it, to be flat like that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is going to flatten this out until at least halfway down is cleaned up. So now I'm going to make a setup to remove all of this material here from the side. That's what I'm doing next. If it was high enough. It does.
What you doing?
That'll work. It's all set up. I've got my tool dialed in this way, and this way. So I know it's exactly going to come out the way I want it to. I have 0 set on my cross slide, so I know how far to bring the table back this way when I'm going in this direction. And I've got my dust collector set up. So now we're going to go back and forth with the table and work our way in and out with the cross slide. So what I'm doing here is I'm coming down a little with my height. That's my depth of cut, essentially. And then I'm going back and forth with my table. And then I'm coming in and out with my cross slide. I'm doing all my down feeding when I'm all the way in and set to bring the workpiece out. And that's because the far side of the grinding wheel will be doing the most of the work, and it'll get a big radius on it and a taper on it, and I'll still have a nice square corner over here.
Getting close?
No, it's done.
Done?
I was going for 1/4 inch. So here you can see what we've done. We've created that side view. Now we're going to work on the top and make it look like this. So it's going to be a little more challenging because here we could just run off the end with the grinding wheel, whereas now we're going to have to be contained between, again, this point, but then a point right about here. So I already have a 0 at one end that I can use. I'm going to need to put a dial up somewhere so I can determine where my other 0 is going to be over here. So what I've done is I've got this 0 set to stop me when I'm coming out at this edge, and I've got this dial set so that about 60 thou before the table even touches it, I'll see it start moving. The table will contact the dial when I still have about 60 thou to go. So I just have to, once it starts touching and moving, I just have to go to the 0, and that way I'll go in the same amount every time, and then coming out, I go to the 0 on the dial, so I stop at the same place every time. Now, the thing is, I don't know which one of these 0s it is. So I'm going to have to be, and I can't see when I'm over here. So I'm just going to have to be super careful that the first time around, I really pay attention on what's going back here. And also, I'll count my number of revolutions to get to the correct 0. And then that'll give me something that I can then just use to blast through this. Does that make any sense?
To me, yeah.
50 thou to go. Step 1, at least, of making it look like our top view. So far, we have this. So we've got this upper piece that sticks up more. That's shown by this line here. We've got the cutaway in behind here. That's shown by this dotted line here. And then we can see the remainder of our original 1/2 inch thickness here, which is this bit here. So what we need to do is get from here to this. The first thing I'm going to do is, this is 1/2 inch right now. It has to be only 400 thou. And the primary clearance angle is going to be 7.5 degrees. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this angle back until I get this to 400 thou at the 7.5 degree angle. And then we'll go immediately, we'll keep that short because this is a really tight little bore. So we're only going to have maybe 10, 15 thou of 7.5 degree. And then we're going to immediately go to 15 degree and then probably throw a little 45 over here so that when we're actually in our bore, the back isn't hitting. So now we're going to the 15 degrees here. And I'm actually using this mark that I put on because it agrees with the dial and the mark that came from the manufacturer does not agree with the graduations. Okay, so I've got my 7.5 degree just in the top here. That's a really decent primary clearance angle. Then I've got my 15 degree. Now, after that, the angles, they don't much matter. You want as much meat as you can for strength without contacting the workpiece. So this is going to end up wanting to do, well, it's hard. It won't even fit now, see, because that corner would hit. So what I'm going to do now, here, I'll just show you. I'm just going to basically keep increasing this angle and gradually round this thing off real nice like this. Then I'm going to put this in the other way, and I'm going to cut 45 right there all the way down this edge here so that the back doesn't hit when I'm pulling out from after cutting the threads.
I understood that.
So this little bit here is my 7.5 degree. This next little bit here is my 15 degree. And I'm just going to keep increasing that and rounding this thing off.
Okay, let's try that again.
Okay, so this is, I'm holding this and can't see what I'm showing you, so it makes it a little difficult, but we're getting close. This 45 I put on this corner will let me pull the tool out after the cut and then get out of the nut. I'm still a little concerned about this bottom corner down in here, because when we're into the threads, it's only about 30 thou deep, these threads, but still that's going to leave us kind of close to touching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock this whole corner off all the way down. So we've got our basic angles. If I take our nut here, get it eyeballed up to center height, where we're going to want to do our cutting, you can see that there's plenty of clearance below the cutting edge, down on that bottom, down over here. It's hard to explain. I need like 8 more hands. Anyways, there's plenty of clearance down below, I believe. And there's clearance on the back. You can pull this out to return from our threading pass. So now I'm going to put the two 30-degree angles on here, and then it'll be a threading tool. I've got this rotated to 30 degrees. This is going to be for one of our, of course, we're building a 60-degree American fine thread, so half is 30. So I've got this set to rotated to 30 degrees this way, and then I've got it back to 7.5 degrees this way. This is going to give me a clearance angle, and I'm going to bring that all the way over to center here, and then I'm gonna do the same thing we did when on the flat. I'm just gonna keep. I'll go from the 7.5 degrees. I'll give it a little bit. Then I'll go the 15 degrees and give it a little bit, and then I'll just keep going and going and going, and try and keep that transition line basically centered as I go through, and then we'll reverse the setup and we'll do the other side. We're all set up, and we're gonna cut our first angle at 30 degrees by 7.5 degrees clearance.
Yay.
So you can see here, of course, we have it turned to the 30 degrees because we're making a threading tool out of this little point, and we've got our 7.5 degree clearance angle at the top here. We've come in with our 15-degree angle and just left a tiny bit of that 7.5. And now we're going to go again with even more of a difference in angle. I'm probably going to go at least straight to 45 on this next move. And then we'll come up and leave just a little bit of the 15-degree angle, and then we'll go crazy at, I don't know, 75 degrees or something and really finish that off. So I'm just setting up here for the opposite 30-degree angle on this thing. So now we're tipping down, and we'll start with our 7.5 degrees. Definitely need a different wheel. This thing's great. It's meant for hogging off tons of material, but I've got to create a real sharp corner in here, and I'd never get a straight edge to my threading tool if I use the wheel like this. So I need something that's really
Delicate.
harder and finer.
Harder and finer.
So that will be good because it's a really sharp edge for making this side of my tool a nice straight line, not a big old rounded off corner like what you see here now. That's what was left behind from the work from before, and that's fine. But I don't want that now when it's my actual cutting tool that I'm finishing. This is probably the single most challenging part of this. I mean, grinding the height of it down, the first thing, that was super easy. Then grinding the front face down where we had to be careful where we stopped, that was a little more challenging. Grinding the 30-degree angle on the outside was pretty easy because there was nothing in the way. Now here, we need to grind a 30-degree angle on the inside. And what we're looking at here is we need a 30-degree angle here, a nice, sharp, straight 30-degree angle line that blends pretty much to a point here. But we're doing it with this wheel, which has a curved surface here, and we're coming up against a flat surface. So the goal here, and it's kind of a by eye thing, is you want to blend as nicely as you can between the top and the bottom. Now, of course, it's not going to be perfect because flat to round, and we talked about that. But you also don't want to undercut it like crazy and just go make a big, stupid, weak spot way out here at the tip. So that's something to keep in mind at the same time. So again, just going to kind of wing it here. I'm going to get this thing not quite to a point. Hopefully I can stop it just shy of a point. I wouldn't mind a little flat on there, 5 thou or so. And then we'll blend it in here at the back as nice as we can. Okay, let's move on to the 15-degree relief angle. Paint her back up and do the whole thing over again. Well, okay. Well,
I'm recording and you're going to.
Okay, so here it is, finished. We've got our 60-degree point for threading. There's clearance on both sides of that. And as far as fitting in our nut, but threading, we can easily go into the threads, and then when it's time, we can back out, and there's plenty of room back here for us to get back out and come in for our next threading pass. And I've got lots of length on here. The depth of this particular thread is only 30 thou, so I could literally, grind this back a lot of times and resharpen it. So there's lots of life built into it. I think that'll do it. We'll test it out probably on some maybe aluminum, just so that if there is a problem with any of the clearance angles, that we pick it up before we just blow it up threading steel, and then we're on to making this nut. Well, that's it for today's show, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed.
And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe.
Peace out.
Have a good one.